All right, hello everybody. Welcome back to another client interview. I'm getting into the habit of doing quite a few of these recently, and today I'm joined by a client and friend of mine, Sean, who hopped into our program back in October of last year. And we're recording this mid-February, so it's been about 5 months since Sean hopped on board, and in that time he's been able to add $20,000 in new monthly revenue to his agency. And there's quite a story behind how he did that, and where he was before working with us and stuff. So in this video we're going to take the opportunity to ask Sean some questions. I say we, it will be me doing the questioning, and we'll basically find out what the hell's gone on and how Sean's been able to do this. Sean, could you just introduce yourself and explain what your agency does and what niche you're in?
Yeah, Sean Privatera with ROAS Marketing. That may change as as we go along with the niche and everything.
Cool.
But been really niched in on helping coaches to get more clients.
Mm-hmm. Amazing, man. So you've got a bit of an interesting backstory before joining the program where you were doing quite well, but then something happened and your revenue dropped. Would you mind just sharing with everyone where you were before joining us?
Yeah, I mean, last summer it was doing about 45K a month. Like we were basically mostly focused on e-commerce. We did some B2B kind of like appointment setting stuff, more like just outsourced. Had some people running that for us, but really strong kind of like sales funnel and everything. Everything was going pretty well. And then the economy just kind of came in and was like, no. And so, that dropped down to like, 15K a month and in around December time. And like through the program, been able to bump that back up above 30K plus. And then I think the big difference is that it's not like, it looks a lot different. Like the kind of base of customers requires a different kind of maintenance. Like, so with e-commerce, like if I had that same level of client base with e-commerce, there would be a lot more maintenance, like a lot more hands-on maintenance. Whereas like with what I'm doing, from the stuff I've learned with you guys, like there's still some maintenance and some whining, but I mean, it's nothing like the day-to-day management of an e-commerce store and, client.
Yeah, that makes good sense. So you had this sort of drop off in revenue because of the economy. You joined the program to sort of correct that. What were the main problems you were looking to solve with the program, and what were the main reasons you invested in it?
Well, one of the things that I had like started to notice is that e-com for agencies has like become super, super competitive. And then just e-com in general was starting to kind of take a dive around that time. I mean, December is typically kind of a weird time because even though it's like going really well, it's like about to go not very well, for most e-com. And so it's a weird time. It's kind of a transition time. But I was, starting kind of like to feel like I should transition out of the e-commerce stuff. I mean, I still manage quite a bit of e-commerce stuff, but really like the goal now is really to just focus purely on B2B stuff, like helping coaches. And the reason for that is it's a lot like more consistent. I mean, I'd say it's still super competitive. But like, I mean, when it comes to e-com agency stuff, I mean, it literally has become so commoditized. I mean, that it's like it's basically like you race to the bottom in terms of retainers, and then like they just treat you like crap. I mean, clients do. It's just I'm basically just done with all that.
Yeah, I hear you. So the problem was acquisition. So what strategies in the program did you deploy? Because I know you've mentioned you'd use our sales script quite a lot to close a lot of calls as well. Did you use any of the appointment booking stuff as well?
So I'd say there's a bunch of different things. I mean, part of it was like kind of like really focusing on the offer. Part of it is like kind of this sales mentality of like I run ads, like I'm not currently running any for client acquisition, but like a lot of these kind of newer, younger guys, I mean, literally there's like 16-year-olds starting agencies in the group, which is like just wild.
Yeah.
I mean, they're not running ads, I mean, like they're just starting off with like cold outreach and stuff. But like, I mean, everything I do, like I try to do it like crazy, and so that's how I am.
Yeah.
So like, I was like running ads just for example, like I would have never in the past like reached out, like cold called like people on comments, like people that just like commented, like I would like, maybe send them a message or whatever, but like I would never like look them up and like cold call them. And so I think there's just like a mentality shift that kind of comes with the program that, like from a sales standpoint, as well as like, I had always done cold email stuff for clients, but I had like outsourced it. So kind of learning that process in the
Mm.
program, as well as, just kind of I think a lot of it's like the mentality and like, the kind of mindset stuff that you talk about, but there's also some actual functional tools to use as well.
That's good, man. So one other thing I wanted to touch on is I remember we were talking about this in the DMs a while ago, and you mentioned that like financially, like a while ago, you were sort of in quite a bad place and considering like selling some things or something to sort of like make ends meet, but you're not anymore. So now that you've got this, we could call it predictable way of getting clients or that new sort of mindset, and you're sort of the agency's bumping back up to where it was. How does that feel? Because I can imagine it feels pretty good.
Yeah. I mean, like I said, December got pretty rough.
Mm,
Like basically like lost like a bigger client, which was like kind of insult to injury.
mm.
And and so but like the flip side is that client was like a big pain in the ass. So it was like a weird, it was it's a weird kind of deal in the sense that it's like it was kind of a relief, but yeah, I mean, like you said, I mean, it was super frustrating. I'd say, like I'm still not like comfortable. I mean, I think it's gonna take quite a bit more for me to like really feel comfortable, but and I'm definitely not even close to goal. I mean, like for me, I mean, like 100K a month would be like just really starting to like kind of achieve like an actual goal,
Yeah.
of where I want to be. Because the thing is that it's not like you're like putting all that into the bank. I mean, there's a lot of like fees involved. There's, paying contractors. I mean, there's
Mm.
a lot of stuff that comes out of that. So on a net basis, that might end up being like 75 or something,
Yeah. And
whatever,
you've got to
so
pay Uncle Sam as well,
exactly.
and then Stripe and then all that stuff. So that yeah, that makes sense. So what is the goal next? So you're sort of running at that sort of low to mid multi six figure mark. Where do you see the agency being in a year?
I mean, I don't like to think like a year out because it's like so far.
Mm.
I like to think of like 3 to 6 months.
Hmm.
I think it's very reasonable for me to get to like the kind of 50K plus, mark again, here in like the next 3 to 4 months, and then
Hmm.
6 to 9 months, I'd like to be in that 100K plus. And there's literally like nothing like you talked about in the recent acquisition genesis. Like the kind of
Review.
oxygen of
Yeah.
agencies is uh is basically booked meetings and stuff. So I'm
Hmm.
really just like focused on just continuing to try to increase the volume of that, and really just hone in on the offer, hone in on the service delivery.
Hmm.
So I think the biggest issue for me lately has just been the service delivery piece of it. Just
Gotcha.
trying to fulfill on the stuff that I do a
Well,
really good job of selling.
that's the
So
that's the problem we give. Now you've got to figure out what to do with all the clients, but I guess that's a pretty good problem to have. So if you were restarting the program, or so let's say someone was joining the program, what advice would you give to them, knowing what you know now about having used it and having achieved this level of success that you've got in the last few months?
um, it's an interesting question. I'd say a lot of these guys are kind of like, I think they come in and they're just like they're not familiar with a lot of this stuff, and they're not really sure like what to do. Um, just try shit out, like, I mean, I think like on some of the coaching calls you talk about, like, you shouldn't even be on this call, you should just be dialing, I think. And it's like, I mean, like, I just, I feel like, when it comes down to this stuff, people get really hung up on things like, they want like an approval of like an offer and like the group, but like, I mean, what really matters is like client approval of an offer, right?
Exactly. Which
So
is
it's like,
almost always what we say. If like someone's like, "Hey, do you think this email copy would work?" I'm like, "I'm not a dentist, so I can't tell you." Like, just you'll be able to find out faster if you just sent 100 emails. To be fair, so
yeah, just get out there and test it, like, I mean, literally, like, anybody can I mean, you can get these numbers on Google. Like, you don't even need to buy lists or anything. Most of the lists, like, like I use like a list provider or whatever, and like, you can click a button that says like name and phone. But like, honestly, like, most of the time I'm like going to be able to find that same information just by doing a Google search of that
yeah,
person.
there's no real excuses, which is why I like because there's no real barrier to entry to it. So so one question I was asking in these interviews is if you let's say you were talking to someone on the fence who was thinking about buying the program, and they were sort of unsure as to whether it was going to work or not, what would you say to them to try and convince them to come on board? Essentially, can you sell my product for me?
I mean, I think that the biggest thing, like I said, like I put in the comment the other day, was like, there's a lot of these like guru types out there, and like a lot of them are just like assholes. And
Yeah,
like I think the biggest thing that differentiates you is that like you're a capitalist, but you're like also like,
not an asshole.
yeah, I mean, like you're genuine, which is like super rare for like people that are in kind of in like this space, like in like the coaching kind of whatever you want to call it, like
Mm,
guru space, like that's pretty rare. So like I just say that like for anybody that's thinking about signing up or whatever, like you guys are like legitimately different. Like I could tell that right away when I could see the engagement in the group. Like
mm.
you were jumping on calls, like you're not like a kind of an absent founder
I
where
think,
a lot of these guys, like once they get to the level that you guys are at, like they would be completely vacant. I
yeah.
guarantee like they wouldn't be like they wouldn't be doing this, they
Well,
wouldn't be
it's
upgrading the program, they wouldn't be doing
yeah.
any of that stuff.
I think that one of the problems with my niche or my market or competition, whatever you want to call them, is there's no. It's very easy to. There's no real accountability because it's all online. So like, if it was the case where like all of your clients were like in your town, then you have to show up. But because you're sat in a glass panel penthouse somewhere on these ridiculous profit margins, and there's no like there's no real incentive to update your products and stuff, and there's no real incentive to show up for
There's no
clients.
regulator.
Yeah,
It's not
because
like
there's no.
insurance where there's like a regulator that can come in
Yeah,
and like tell you, hey, you're being
exactly.
an asshole.
Exactly. Yeah, it's like, look, you can't be a dick. You've got to turn up. But I think that like because we are more concerned with the next 20 years, we have to show up. And also if I'm not in the community, then there's less reason for other people to be there. And no, it's not all about us. But I think that it's not hard to spend a couple hours a week just talking to clients and helping them and stuff. So I really appreciate that. So man, I'm really appreciate you coming on here, and I'm also really happy with your story and everything that you've been able to do. Honestly, like these interviews, they do make me pretty fucking happy. So I really appreciate you coming on. Um, I remember at the start, you also mentioned before this interview that you've got like a website or something. So if anyone wants to check out Sean's agency, or maybe any potential services you've got, if you're interested in anything, if you're a coach, for example, there'll be a link to Sean's website in the description. And I promise I didn't pay Sean to say what he just said. Do you have anything else you want to go through, mate, or should we call it a day there?
No, not really. No, yeah, I'd
Nice one.
say like if if people actually follow the program and show up and jump on the calls and get involved in the community and stuff, they'll definitely see results.
Yeah, really appreciate it, bro. Well, you take care. Talk to you later.
All right.
Nice.